Most Americans are familiar with the First Amendment right to free speech, one of the cornerstones of our democracy. What many don't know about are some of the secret ways our government is subverting that fundamental right.
We don't like the message it's conveying. Well, holy cow, if that is not a direct assault on the First Amendment, your free speech rights, I don't know what is.
This week, the head of a key congressional committee tells what they're unearthing about the government's role in monitoring and censoring American speech.
When Israel launched their counterattack against the Islamic terrorist Hamas in Gaza, there was more to the battle than met the eye, because a critical part was underground.
Even for the most seasoned warrior, it could be extremely unnerving.
We look at the underground war in Gaza and why it should be a wake-up call to the world.
With the 2024 presidential political primaries primed to begin, so is the beginning of a flood of campaign cash.
There are multiple ways for a rich corporation or a rich donor, or by the way, even a rich foundation, to influence elections.
We examine the roots and the sources behind so-called dark money.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. It's election year. This is the 5th presidential election campaign since Twitter and Facebook were created. And with each election cycle, efforts to manipulate the election through social media have become more heavy-handed. It's no longer just about putting out a message. It's about stopping certain voices from being heard and certain facts from getting told. The First Amendment limits the government's role in monitoring and censoring American speech, but a congressional committee has found evidence of the government and its partners veering far beyond constitutional guardrails with help from a growing censorship industrial complex. After Donald Trump's victory in 2016, government-driven efforts to police free speech on the internet reached new heights.
This was an elaborate project where big government, these various agencies in the federal government, working with big tech and, of course, big academia, were all involved in this effort to censor American speech.
Congressman Jim Jordan heads up a House committee investigating weaponization of the federal government. The committee has obtained documents that shed new light on what Jordan says is an elaborate government censorship operation, one that could be ongoing today. The documents were turned over by Stanford University under threat of subpoena. They allegedly show the government partnering with academics and social media companies to censor, silence, and controversialize certain voices.
It was political figures, it was journalists, it was people with big reach online. So that was the effort, but they initially said there was nothing there.
So you might be referring to the Election Integrity Partnership,
Yep.
EIP. If I gather correctly, they're basically a middleman that was created by and used by the government in this massive effort to kind of surveil and censor.
Yep.
The Election Integrity Partnership was spun up at Stanford University 100 days before the 2020 election. It promotes itself as a nonpartisan coalition. Subpoenaed records show it was much more. It was created at the request of the Department of Homeland Security under President Trump.
Thank you very much.
But the Election Integrity Partnership wasn't on Trump's side. Its efforts ultimately undermined his re-election efforts. Documents show that high-ranking officials inside federal agencies helped build an operation with nearly 100 people that worked with over a dozen partners to flag thousands of posts and narratives.
Preserve, protect, and defend
The Constitution.
Once Joe Biden was elected, the Election Integrity Partnership quickly pivoted to protecting Biden and suppressing questions about the 2020 election.
We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about.
It publicized the January 6th pro-Trump rally and Capitol riots as an insurrection, and it worked to censor information about COVID and vaccine risks.
Think how many things the government told us. If they're supposed to be the arbiter of truth, think how many things they told us relative to COVID that were false. I mean, there's tons. They told us that it wasn't our tax money used in the lab in Wuhan, China. Yes, it was. They told us it wasn't gain of function. Sure looks like it was. They told us it didn't come from a lab. Sure looks like it did. They told us the vaccinated couldn't get it. They told us the vaccinated couldn't transmit it. They told us masks work. I mean, and I'm probably forgetting, but there's 6 lies right there. So, and yet they're the ones who are going to decide.
Besides COVID, what were the other types of information it looked like the government was interested in censoring?
It was almost all election-related and COVID-related. So January 23rd, 2021, it's like 36 hours into the new administration. There's an email from the White House to Twitter saying, take down this tweet ASAP. And the tweet is from, interestingly enough, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., now running for president as an independent. Kennedy's 2021 tweet was about the death of baseball legend Hank Aaron of natural causes 2 weeks after getting a COVID vaccine. Kennedy wrote, Aaron's tragic death is part of a wave of suspicious deaths among elderly closely following administration of COVID vaccines.
So he's stating fact, and the White House says you got to take that tweet down. And this term is so scary. It's misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. Malinformation is defined as true, but we don't like the context. We don't like the message it's conveying. Well, holy cow, if that is not a direct assault on the First Amendment, your free speech rights, I don't know what is. But the White House was engaged in that literally 36 hours into this administration.
Collaborators in the government-driven project to shape information included the Atlantic Council. That group is funded by the State Department, Defense Department, other federal agencies, foreign governments, Mideast and U.S. oil interests, financial giants, Google and Twitter, and foundations for billionaire activist George Soros, Craig Newmark of Craigslist, and a Ukrainian oligarch. Records provided to Congress reveal details on how the collaboration worked. Federal agencies and special interests submitted internet posts they didn't like to the Election Integrity Partnership.
Certain tweets that were put up, they were looking to take those down, limit their visibility, limit their reach. And they had this software system, this Jira system they used, where you could, almost like a clearinghouse, like a switchboard, where you could see, and they could see what was going in. They could then find, are there any other similar tweets or posts? And it was this elaborate system to censor American speech.
The Election Integrity Partnership then reported the flagged material to its big tech contacts with specific recommendations on how to censor it. Uttapam Chander is a professor at Georgetown University who's taught internet law for 2 decades. Is there a role in America for the government to play as an official body that moderates supposed disinformation? Because it's not hard to observe that under every administration they've put out what could easily be characterized as disinformation. So who are they to determine what others can say and think?
So I think that's right. I think that governments should not be telling us what information we should be allowed to hear, what information others should be allowed to convey to us. The government can have its views and put those out in the world. I think that's okay. But I don't think the government should be telling the private sector, newspapers or internet platforms, large or small, what they can or can't say.
According to the Congressional Committee, flagged material included true information, jokes, and political opinions. Among the censored, President Trump, the news satire website The Babylon Bee, Republicans Tom Tillis, Mike Huckabee, Tom Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Harmeet Dillon, and conservative-leaning news outlets, reporters, and commentators. Stanford declined comment for the story. The White House referred us to the Federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. A spokesman there told us the agency does not and has never censored any speech and did not found, fund, or have any role in the management of the Election Integrity Partnership. The agency also says it mitigates the risk of disinformation by sharing accurate information and by amplifying the trusted voices of election officials across the nation. We remain committed to building resilience to foreign influence operations and disinformation so the American people don't face the brunt of these threats on their own. In a lawsuit filed by Missouri, lower courts agreed the Biden administration likely violated First Amendment free speech protections. Judges barred certain federal officials from continuing to press for censorship on social media while the case heads to trial. But the Supreme Court lifted the temporary restrictions. The Supreme Court will hear arguments on the controversy, with a decision expected in June.
We'll see what the Supreme Court says. I feel good about our chances of getting a good decision from the court upholding, First Amendment liberties.
In the meantime, experts say there's nothing to stop the Biden administration from continuing to lobby for takedowns of material by political opponents in this presidential election year. By the way, government agencies initially justified their censorship efforts by saying they have to look out for foreigners attempting to undermine American elections. But it's worth noting that after all the talk of Russia in the 2016 election, a study by the New York University Center for Social Media and Politics and other analyses concluded Russian misinformation had no measurable impact. Ahead on Full Measure, how war is fought beneath the battlefield. As Israel fights the Islamic extremist terrorist group Hamas, key aspects of the battle are taking place underneath the battlefield that most of us are familiar with. Lisa Fletcher reports on tunnel warfare and whether U.S. troops are prepared to face a like-positioned enemy.
As Israel's army, the IDF, prepared to counter the Hamas terrorist attack of October 7th, they took 20 days to prepare the ground assault on Gaza, knowing that much of the fighting would be underground in a maze of booby-trapped tunnels.
Subterranean warfare essentially allows an enemy to defend and negate a stronger opponent's capabilities. So by going underground, they're able to take away combined arms maneuver and artillery and things like that.
Chris DeRuyter is a retired Army lieutenant colonel and former Ranger, one of the Army's elite. He's worked with and trained the Israeli Army in subterranean combat.
As I've been watching the stories and you see these seemingly limitless tunnels, it becomes obvious. These tunnels have been around for a really long time.
Right.
It seems unlikely that IDF wouldn't have known at some point they would end up there, right?
Over a decade ago, the IDF recognized that these subterranean facilities existed, and that in someday they may be in a situation where they have to actually do something. So they actually started investing quite a bit into technology, training and education, which is allowing them to actually conduct operations effectively today.
This is a covert tunnel.
The Israeli military has shown video inside some of the tunnels it found, but just how extensive they are remains a mystery. Attackers can use tunnels to slip into enemy territory or undermine fortifications, as Hamas did. For defenders, tunnels allow for easier ambushes and counterattacks. They can also be used to hide and protect a nation's most lethal weapons. U.S. forces have faced underground threats in recent conflicts in Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Back in World War II, the Japanese made extensive use of tunnels on Pacific Islands, most notably on Iwo Jima. In the Korean War, there was the Battle of the Twin Tunnels. And in Vietnam, American troops faced extensive tunnels booby-trapped by the communist guerrilla enemy, the Viet Cong.
So does underground warfare negate the U.S.'s technological superiority?
I wouldn't say it negates it, it just makes the problem a lot harder. It makes operations would have to be much slower, much more deliberate.
Colonel DeRuyter was with the Army's Asymmetric Warfare Group. They were tasked with finding new ways to fight and deal with unconventional enemy tactics.
When I was with Asymmetric Warfare Group, we would do some training with conventional units, and one of the very first things we did was put them in this dark area. It was designed to identify who has claustrophobia issues. There's some soldiers that are just not capable of operating in that kind of confined space once they got through the confined space trainer. So even for the most seasoned warrior, it could be extremely unnerving.
Underground warfare isn't part of regular training for most American soldiers and Marines. There are more than 28,000 U.S. troops guarding the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, many of whom do not have subterranean training. And there are at least 4 major known tunnel systems dug by the communist North.
Take the North Korean regime. I mean, these are vast underground facilities that have everything that you can think of, from communication to command centers to living quarters and hospitals. So I mean, these are purpose-built underground facilities for combat and for military purposes. And I just mentioned that because it's very, very different than like some of the tunnels that we may be thinking about right now in this particular conflict in Gaza.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think the image that Americans have are these very rudimentary tunnels that are literally just tunnels dug through the ground. When you're talking about entire cities laid out underground.
Right, that are designed to withstand missile attacks and artillery attacks and, you know, ballistic missile strikes. So, you know, they're very purpose-built for survivability.
North Korea is just one of America's enemies who have gone underground with large-scale tunnel systems. China has constructed subterranean missile sites and command centers. Iran's underground nuclear facilities are well documented, but the country has also exported its tunnel warfare expertise to terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. And Russia is using booby-trapped tunnels and trenches all along its front line with Ukraine. Now in the private sector, with an American research and consulting organization called the National Center for Urban Operations, DeRuyter believes the U.S. military should devote much more attention to subterranean warfare.
It's hard to train units up rapidly because it takes time and resources to actually make them prepared to be able to go to this environment.
And maybe there might be something to learn from the enemy by taking some of our defenses underground.
Our enemies have been using underground facilities for decades in order to help increase their survivability. It would make sense to start teaching our allies and partners how they can use underground warfare to their advantage from a defensive perspective.
In preparing to fight the battles of the future, it's clear America will need to learn from Israel's recent experience. For Full Measure, I'm Lisa Fletcher in Washington.
Coming up, we shed light on dark money in the 2024 campaign. As we move closer to the 2024 elections, the role that dark money plays in getting votes is a growing question. Scott Thuman follows the money on the impact of this type of campaign cash and who's getting the most.
I can't think of any other politician in history who has shown such a disrespect and a contempt for the Constitution and the rule of law as Hillary.
The term dark money appeared after a group called Citizens United wanted to promote this film, critical of Hillary Clinton when she ran for president in 2008. The Federal Election Commission said that would violate a long-standing ban on corporate money used to promote or oppose candidates during election season. But in 2010, the Supreme Court disagreed, ruling outside groups and corporations can spend unlimited amounts on elections. What makes this money dark is that those groups don't have to disclose the names of all their donors like candidates and campaigns do.
And at the time, it only meant a narrow type of nonprofit called the 501c4, which is things like National Rifle Association, League of Conservation Voters.
Scott Walter is president of the Capital Research Center, a conservative think tank tracking how dark money spending has evolved since 2010.
It's now broadened in a sort of fairly fuzzy way to mean political money where the original donor is not disclosed.
Since 2010, the amount of dark money has grown quickly. About $1 billion was spent in the 2020 election. But when it comes to which side of the political aisle attracts the most of that kind of cash, you may be surprised.
In those first few cycles after the 2010 court decision, 2012, 2014, 2016, the amount of money in this channel of political giving did increase dramatically, and for those cycles there was an advantage on the Republican side. In 2018 cycle, 2020 cycle, 2022 cycle, there's been lots more dark money on the Democrat side, and that isn't reported as well.
Why do you say Democrats have such a big advantage?
The Democrat advantage in dark money, of course, stems from the fact that they are now the party of the rich and privileged. We've looked, for instance, at personal donations in the richest neighborhoods around New York, D.C., L.A., and San Francisco, the richest and most powerful cities in America, and surprise, they go to Democrats. If you think of the rich and privileged as being Fortune 500 corporations, well, they've now gone woke. They now give money more to left-wing causes.
According to the nonprofit group Open Secrets that tracks political spending, in the 2020 election, 4 of the top 5 dark money groups were Democrat-aligned.
But you can influence a lot of minds with that kind of money, can't you?
Well, it is true that folks who are fighting, for or against particular Supreme Court nominations or for or against particular environmental regulations, a lot of that fighting does happen in this world. That's true.
You talked about the 2020 presidential cycle. What are we seeing so far for this race?
Well, there's a lot less money that's been revealed so far, since we're at this point only a little past halfway. In general, in 2022 and the cycle and the current cycle, there doesn't seem to be as much money going into the original dark money 501c4 groups.
Do you think voters should know exactly where that money is coming from before they cast their ballots?
I sympathize with people who like to hear the phrase, oh, well, we have a right to know where everybody's money is coming from. And we do for the vast bulk of dollars that are given to parties and candidates and traditional PACs. That is disclosed. But at the same time, I think about a pro-abortion woman in the Bible Belt. Should her neighbors be able to know that she gave to Planned Parenthood, or the reverse? I think that citizens like that have a right to be able to engage in the political process without having to worry about a mob showing up at their door or losing their job, which, as we know, has happened many times.
As for the effect of dark money on politics, Walter thinks it isn't as powerful as many believe, pointing out that in terms of total campaign spending, it's still just a small part. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Washington.
After a break, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Coming up next week on Full Measure, the startling question of how chemicals commonly found in our environment could be impacting people in unexpected ways.
There's very likely that chemicals like atrazine that can influence your hormonal balance, and we know it does so in humans, that potentially could influence things like sex or gender identity and orientation.
How our children could be affected, and what happened to Professor Hayes when he exposed the risks, next week on Full Measure. You can hear more stories on our podcast, Full Measure, After Hours. Until next time, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable. Thanks for watching. I'm Sharyl Attkisson.